Hey guys, MB Darkman here. In 2022, former YouTuber Filthy Frank turned mega musical artist Joji released his most recent album, Smithereens. This album was released to mixed reviews.
I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5.
On one hand, it featured the iconic song Glimpse of Us, by far one of Joji's most well-known songs, and arguably one of the defining songs of his career. On the other hand, this album contains almost no other songs that received mainstream play, and raised a few eyebrows in that Joji has songwriting credits on only 3 of the 9 songs on the album. Regardless about one's feeling for the album, what is apparent is that since this album, Joji has not released any further music. It's now been over 2 years since Joji has released even so much as a single, let alone an album. And look, 2 years may not seem that long to some of you. For fans of another Frank Ocean, they'd kill for an album every 2 years. But for Joji, who has released music with extreme consistency since beginning his musical career, this is by far the longest he's gone without releasing any music. But even putting music aside for a second, Joji's social media accounts have been extremely quiet this year. If you look at any of Joji's accounts, you'd be forgiven for thinking he didn't post anything at all for the whole year of 2024. However, that's not quite true. On his Instagram, he has in fact posted a total of 3 Instagram stories, all simply to promote his shows this year. And speaking of shows, Joji's touring this year has been minimal, with the amount of shows he's performed countable on one hand. So, this has led many of Joji's fans to wonder, where is Joji? As mentioned previously, Joji's most recent album, Smithereens, was released at the end of 2022. Joji would then spend most of 2023 touring. First, he would head to Australia and perform a series of shows exclusively at the Laneway Festival. And, fun fact, that's where I saw Joji live for the first time. After performing a single show in Malaysia, he then began his Oblivion tour, the first official tour of the Smithereens era, featuring 3 absolutely massive shows in New York, LA, and then London. The New York show at Madison Square Garden was an extremely iconic show, likely being his biggest show ever.
Maybe one day you feel lonely, and in his eyes you'll get a glimpse, bitch!
After the London show, Joji would then tour Europe and perform 6 shows in 6 different countries there. Following this, he would begin his second official Smithereens tour, the Pandemonium Tour, which began with a slew of shows through North America, followed by a return to Australia, a quick stop at Max Mofo's wedding, and finishing up with 6 shows in Asia. However, Joji would cut the Asian leg of his tour short after just 3 shows due to health issues, thereby ending the Pandemonium Tour prematurely and also bringing an end to Joji's touring activities in 2023. Overall, by my count, Joji performed a massive 44 shows in 2023, which is a pretty crazy tour schedule by any stretch. That's basically 1 show every 8 days. So, it shouldn't be at all surprising that Joji didn't release any music in 2023. This tour would have taken up almost all of his time, and it's hard to see where Joji would have found time to record new music while on the road. Now, it is worth mentioning that a special 5-year anniversary edition of Ballads 1 released in 2023. However, this was simply a set of recolored vinyls with a different album art, and the re-released album contained no new music. Joji's touring schedule in 2024, however, was a much different story to 2023. Compared to the massive 44 shows performed in 2023, Joji has performed exactly 3 shows in 2024, all of which were festivals. The Head in the Clouds Festival in New York in May, We The Fest in Jakarta in July, and most recently, Slow Life, Slow Live in Seoul in October. There was no official Joji tour this year, just these 3 one-off shows. Now, this massive disparity between 2023 and 2024 has led many to wonder what Joji's focusing his time on, if not touring. After all, 44 shows compared to 3 is quite a drop. Now, on one hand, our boy could simply be taking a break. I mean, if I did 44 shows in 1 year, I'd want to take a pretty decent break after doing something like that. And, not to speculate, but there's also those health issues that made Joji cancel the last leg of his tour in 2023. However, it's also possible that the reason Joji wasn't focusing on touring was because he was focusing on something else. And for what that something else could be, well, there's two possibilities. When I said before that Joji doesn't post on social media anymore, well, that may not have been the entire truth. The fact is, there are a series of social media accounts linked to Joji that have been very active over the last 2 years. For those aware, I am of course talking about Plummcorp. The challenge though, is figuring out how exactly Joji is related to this entity. If you go on Reddit, there's plenty of speculation, but let's go over exactly what we know. The first anyone ever heard of Plummcorp was in early 2023. This was because Plummcorp was the sole account Joji followed on Instagram and Twitter. He also began making references to Plummcorp at some of his shows. For example, when I saw Joji in Adelaide in February 2023, at one point the screen behind him said, "Beats by Plummcorp." However, the most obvious link to Joji is this trademark website, which lists Plummcorp as a trademark owned by the Gondola Brothers, a company which appears to be owned by Joji, as it also holds the trademarks for names such as Joji, The Filthy Frank Show, and Pink Guy. Now, despite what others may say, this is the full extent of what we know about Joji's connection to Plummcorp. While it does seem reasonable to say that Joji is at least a part owner of Plummcorp, his actual role within Plummcorp is entirely unknown. So keep this in mind as we review the following posts by Plummcorp. While it's possible that Joji had significant input into them, it's also quite possible he had no direct input at all. So what exactly is Plummcorp? Well, that's also not an easy thing to determine. Plummcorp is simultaneously 3 things at once: a YouTube channel, a merch store, and a record label. Let's go through each of these and see if Joji's involvement is present in any aspects. Number 1. A YouTube channel. Now, the Plummcorp social media accounts were dormant until April 2023, when they would share a link to the first video uploaded to the Plummcorp YouTube channel, a humorous video called Bart Simpson 2050. The very next video was Dracula Flow, another comedy video that would absolutely blow up, inspire 4 more episodes, and bring Plummcorp into the mainstream. Other comedy videos would continue to be uploaded, including videos featuring Savage Realm, Joji's hype man from his live shows. However, Joji himself does not appear in any Plummcorp videos, and as stated earlier, his involvement altogether is unknown. There's one strange exception to this, however. In one of the videos, where Savage Realm deep fries some Air Force Ones, if you look at the YouTube tags on the video using special tools, you can see that one of the tags is Joji. Now, Joji does not appear in this video, but since tags are set by the video uploader, it means whoever runs the Plummcorp YouTube channel specifically wanted this video to be findable when searching for Joji. A big thanks, by the way, to justjaelyn for pointing this out to me, as I would definitely not have figured this out by myself. Now, moving on. In May of 2024, something quite unusual would happen. The Plummcorp Instagram and Twitter would promote a new Plummcorp video, but this time, the video was on another channel called Plummcorp Textiles. This channel had an FAQ on its About page, which honestly raised more questions than it answered. However, given that Joji unfollowed Plummcorp in early 2024, and all videos containing Savage Realm were deleted around the same time, some speculated that this may have been Joji distancing himself from Plummcorp, or handing it over to someone else, though both of these theories are pure speculation. It's also worth noting that the original Plummcorp channel still posts videos, with the most recent, at the time of writing, being uploaded in November of 2024. Number 2. A merch store. Almost every video uploaded to Plummcorp contains the following description. These videos are exclusively advertisements for Plummcorp clothing, coupled with a link to plummcorp.com. This site sells a wide variety of merchandise related to Plummcorp, Plummcorp characters, or jokes from the videos. None of this merch is related in any way to Joji, with the unusual exception of the Grab on D's shirt, which references a joke Joji first made way back in a Filthy Frank video.
Have you heard of a restaurant called Grabbin' D's? Grabbin' D's is right down the road.
No.
Grabbin' D's nuts. Oh, got him.
Unfortunately, the Grab on D's shirt appears to have been removed from sale from the store quite recently. However, if you want to see me unbox some of this merch, including possibly the rarest piece of merch Joji's ever been associated with, be sure to check out this video of mine. Link in description. Now, though not directly related to Joji, there's one other point of interest worth mentioning about the Plummcorp merch store that I actually mentioned in my previous video. If you take a look at the merch store, you'll see 3 unusual items on the store, all marked as sold out, and all listed for extremely high prices: the Screamer, For the Monsters, and Team Players Only. Many fans have been understandably confused about what these items are, as was Pyrocynical when he reacted to my last video.
£950,000. Someone bought that, by the way. That's sold out? Someone bought that, bro! How?
However, as you might have guessed, these items were never actually for sale.
Fuck you! You just got pranked! Filthy prank!
And are only on the Plummcorp website as a tie-in to a joke made in one of the Plummcorp videos.
Here are some of our up-and-coming products. And this one right here, look at the detail. This shit will have you screaming and hollering. This right here for team players. This one right here, team players only. This shit is for the monsters. Rawr. Ah.
And finally, number 3, a record label. This is, to me, the most interesting part of Plummcorp. On August 15th, 2023, a music video was uploaded to the Plummcorp channel for a song called Green Goblin Mode by someone named Bobby Bluetooth. Now, Bobby Bluetooth was a brand new artist with no prior releases. The song featured an overproduced beat and contained Bobby rapping over the beat with lyrics honestly comparable to a Pink Guy song. Now, while clearly a joke, this song was actually released on streaming services such as Spotify and Apple Music. Over the course of the Plummcorp upload schedule for the next 2 years, many music videos similar to this would be uploaded. All feature a previously unknown artist, an excessive beat, comedic lyrics, and all are eventually released on streaming platforms. As part of my research for this video, I counted all pieces of Plummcorp music that could be considered a released track, and there are a total of 32 different tracks over the past 2 years. This doesn't even include the countless unnamed background tracks that appear in the non-music Plummcorp videos. I was kind of shocked to count this many songs, as it was way more than I remembered and demonstrates that someone is putting time and effort in to produce these tracks and release them. Now, where it becomes interesting is where we consider who's producing these tracks. As mentioned earlier, all of these artists have no prior producing experience, and most of them honestly seem like they're just Fiverr actors who are paid for their voice, so the chance of them producing these tracks seems to be basically zero. So that really only leaves Joji or Savage Realm as the potential producers. Given that some of these tracks are also literally just credited to Plummcorp Records, the company Joji appears to literally own, the chance of him having nothing to do with these tracks gets smaller and smaller. If Joji did indeed produce these tracks, it would mean he has in fact been very busy with music in the past 2 years, as he would have produced 3.5 smithereens worth of songs since releasing that album. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, we're really just left to speculate about how involved Joji was with these songs. Anyway, I think that's all there is to say about Plummcorp for now. Now, let's ignore the Plummcorp beats for a moment and ask a simple question. Is there any definitive evidence that Joji has worked on any music since Smithereens? The short answer to that question is, not really, and the longer answer is, it's complicated. Given Joji is basically silent on social media at the moment, the only way we'd have evidence for him making music is if A, an artist Joji was collaborating with posted about it, Or B, some of that music has made its way online. Now, to my knowledge, there's no evidence of A occurring, but there does in fact appear to be some evidence of B. In 2023, 2 videos were uploaded to Joji's music YouTube channel. The only uploads from this year, these videos were uploaded to promote Joji's Pandemonium tour that we mentioned earlier. Now, these videos, comedic in nature, feature some beats in them that are not known to belong to any released Joji song. However, they do sound very Joji-like and bear a striking similarity to some of the Plummcorp beats we discussed earlier. So, it's not confirmed, but entirely possible that Joji produced these tracks. It's unlikely that these beats will ever see any kind of official release, but it at least suggests that Joji may have been working on music in 2023. Now, there's 2 other tracks I want to talk about, but these tracks arguably fall into the category of leaks. Before we venture into the topic of unreleased Joji music, it's worth noting that this topic is somewhat taboo to talk about. Many often share this tweet Joji made back when he was still making Filthy Frank content, chastising people for leaking some of his earliest ever music. Artists are protective of their material, and rightly so, and artists tend not to like their unfinished material leaking to the public prematurely. So I'm sure you'll forgive me for treading lightly as I address this sensitive topic. Now, anyone who's done even the slightest poking around into unreleased Joji music will very quickly discover the Joji Tracker, a spreadsheet which captures all known examples and evidence of unreleased Joji tracks. This tracker is not some secret, hard to find resource. It's very public. In fact, there's a link on the sidebar of r/PinkOmega. If we look at the bottom of the tracker, we can see that there are 4 tracks listed as being from the ongoing or Pandemonium era. These are unreleased tracks that are known to have been created after the release of Smithereens. The first 2 are the beats from the 2023 promotional videos that we talked about earlier. So, let's take a look at the other 2. One of these tracks is a beat produced by Wonton Jesus, a producer who helped create the song Blah 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 demo on Joji's Smithereens album. The beat, named You, contains a heavily distorted version of Savin' Me by Nickelback. Now, I'm not ashamed to admit that I used to absolutely love this Nickelback song when I was younger, so hearing it as a hauntingly good Joji-style beat got me very excited. However, the metadata of the track supposedly contains a note saying, "Do not use copyright issues with this." So, if we put 2 and 2 together, the theory is that this track was meant to be the beat for a Joji song, but due to clearance issues with the Nickelback sample, it will likely never see the light of day. The other track, named Row, is even more mysterious. The producer of the track is not known. However, I'm told that the production actually uses some stuff from Joji's kit. The track is a lo-fi piano-based track, similar to that of Tom. At the end of the track, there's a sample from an interview with American influencer Charleston White. And that's about all we know about this track. So what's the verdict then? Based on these 4 tracks, can we deduce that Joji has been spending his time working on music in silence? Well, unfortunately not. These tracks don't really tell us anything definitively. For all we know, all of these tracks could have been made for Joji without any of his own involvement. However, it would be pretty naive to think that Joji has just randomly decided to give up music entirely, so I think it's a pretty reasonable assumption that the reason he's been quiet is because he's been busy working on his next album. In fact, in November this year, it was noticed that some of Joji's music on his YouTube channel was being re-uploaded, this time under a different label, The Orchard Enterprises. Now, there's been various explanations as for why this occurred. Some have suggested that this was Joji changing label in preparation for a new album release. However, there's not really any evidence for this. The most popular, and in my opinion the most likely explanation, by Reddit user u/trulyboredom, suggests that a distribution deal between 88 Rising, Joji's label, and Warner expired, and so many 88 Rising releases were then redistributed through the Orchard, which happens to be the independent distribution arm of Sony. Now, if this is the case, it means Joji himself likely had nothing to do with these re-uploads. However, if this at all implies that Joji is still signed with a label, then that's very promising news. No label is going to sign someone who never plans to release music again, and so it's therefore a pretty safe assumption that if Joji is still signed to a label, he's probably going to release music in the near future. Is that going to be in 2025? No one can say for sure, but given the extended amount of time that Joji has been quiet, it is my personal opinion that a new Joji album is currently in the works. I'm optimistic for a 2025 release, but at the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, you can be sure that when Joji eventually releases his next album, I'll certainly make an update to this video. So if you've enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing, as this is the #1 way you can support me to make more videos just like this. Other places you can find me are my second channel, NBDuckman2, where I try to upload more frequently, my Discord server, where you're more than welcome to drop by and say hello, and my Twitter/X account, where I post updates on what I'm working on, and any other nonsense that's on my mind. And just quickly, before I end this video, I just wanted to thank my subscribers, especially the 3,000 of you who have joined me on this journey in 2024. I truly appreciate your ongoing support, it really means so much to me. I hope you've had a great 2024, and I wish you all the best in 2025. With that being said, this has been NB Duckman. Thank you so much for watching.